The world watches China. Others look to America. But while the headlines remain focused on these two giants, something quieter and far more strategic is unfolding in the space between them. A nation once underestimated is now rising into the spotlight, becoming impossible to ignore. The Philippines is no longer lingering in the shadows of power, it's stepping boldly into the center of the stage. For years, the world's superpowers have danced around each other. But to move Asia forward, they've come to realize something crucial. They can't do it without the Philippines. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below and tell us where you're tuning in from. Because this story is one that connects us all, no matter where we are. Let's see how far the Filipino story reaches. The center of power. For centuries, the tides of influence have shifted across the globe. Empires have risen, ruled, and fallen, each convinced their dominance would last forever. In the 19th century, Britain ruled the seas. In the 20th, the United States became the defining superpower. But the 21st century tells a different story, one where the center of gravity moves east. Asia now drives more than half of the world's economic growth, and at the heart of that new equation lies a chain of islands, the Philippines. From above, it looks like a gate between worlds. To the west, the South China Sea, where trade routes and territorial claims collide. To the east, the Pacific Ocean, a direct highway to the Americas. Every major shipping route connecting East Asia, Europe, and North America passes through Philippine waters. Whoever keeps this corridor open shapes the rhythm of the global economy. And that simple truth explains why, once again, the world's eyes are turning toward Manila. During the Cold War, the Philippines was already a vital U.S. ally. American bases at Subic Bay and Clark Air Base served as critical hubs for the U.S. 7th Fleet. When those bases closed in the early 1990s, many thought the partnership had ended. But history, as always, has a way of circling back. Decades later, rising tensions between Washington and Beijing have given the Philippines renewed importance. For the United States, the Indo-Pacific is now the main stage for deterrence, a contest over trade, technology, and freedom of navigation. And right in the center of it sits the Philippines. The Modern Alliance. In 2014, the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, gave U.S. forces rotational access to Philippine bases. By 2023, that access expanded to 9 key sites across the country. These locations weren't chosen at random. They're positioned for quick humanitarian response and, yes, for regional readiness. But this isn't a return to old colonial patterns. It's a modern partnership, designed to strengthen security while preserving sovereignty. For Washington, the Philippines is a bridge between the Pacific and mainland Asia, between old allies and new coalitions like AUKUS and the Quad. The view from Beijing, China sees the same map differently. To Beijing, the waters west of the Philippines form part of its near seas, its outer layer of defense and trade routes. Chinese strategists call the Arc of Islands from Japan through Taiwan down to the Philippines the first island chain. And to project power into the Pacific, they must cross it. But the Philippines stands in the middle of that chain, the one link that doesn't bend easily. Every patrol, radar, and diplomatic move from Manila affects Beijing's calculations. That's why China alternates between charm and pressure, offering investment through its Belt and Road projects, while testing boundaries through Coast Guard incursions near contested reefs. Playing both sides, perfectly caught between the two giants, the Philippines learned the art of balance. It cannot afford to alienate its largest trading partner, China, nor step away from its oldest ally, the United States. Instead, it plays the long game, leveraging both sides to preserve autonomy. Analysts call it strategic hedging. It's quiet diplomacy, designed not to pick a side, but to keep every option open. Japan, South Korea, and ASEAN partners have all noticed. Tokyo now funds railways, ports, and flood control systems across Luzon, not as charity but strategy. South Korea invests in shipbuilding and defense equipment while also expanding electronics manufacturing. Within ASEAN, the Philippines has become the voice to watch. As disputes over the South China Sea grow louder, others, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, look to Manila for cues. Its tone sets the tone for the region. The smart pivot. Inside diplomatic circles, the Philippines is now known as Asia's swing state. Its alignment can tip outcomes, from trade deals to defense postures. That's a remarkable shift for a country once treated as a secondary player. And part of that shift comes from credibility. When the Philippines modernizes its military, reforms its economy, and upholds international law, it shows that stability can exist without aggression. That image gives Manila diplomatic weight far beyond its borders. Meanwhile, infrastructure diplomacy is reshaping Asia. China pushes the Belt and Road Initiative. Japan promotes quality infrastructure. The U.S. and allies push their own investment frameworks. And once again, the Philippines stands at the intersection, turning geography into strategy. Geography, once a vulnerability, has become an advantage. Superpowers can project strength, but they can't change physics. Every shipping lane, every data cable, every air route across the region still passes near Philippine space. To ignore it would be to ignore the map itself. That's why planners in Washington, Beijing, Tokyo, and Seoul keep one eye fixed on Manila's next move. Every defense agreement, every infrastructure deal, every statement at ASEAN echoes far beyond the islands. The Philippines is no longer reacting to world events, it's shaping them. The quiet economic revolution. While global analysts talk about military alliances, a quieter revolution is transforming the economy. For years, the Philippines was called the sick man of Asia. Today, it's one of the region's most resilient markets. Average GDP growth has stayed around 6% for most of the past decade, recovering faster than expected after the pandemic. Cranes now dominate Metro Manila's skyline. Expressways link once distant provinces. Projects like the North-South Commuter Railway, the Metro Manila Subway, and the new Clark International Airport are finally materializing, many backed by Japan's technology and financing. These aren't vanity projects, they're strategic. Each one strengthens logistics, boosts productivity, and builds resilience. Decentralization and diversification growth is no longer limited to the capital. Cebu, Davao, and Clark are emerging as secondary hubs, each building industries suited to their geography. This decentralization spreads opportunity, strengthens supply chains, and reduces vulnerability to disasters. Global firms are noticing. As companies diversify away from single-country manufacturing, the Philippines now competes alongside Vietnam and Thailand. Its edge? A skilled English-speaking workforce and digital fluency that makes it ideal for tech-enabled services. The new wave of investment remittances from overseas Filipinos still provide a strong economic backbone, over $30 billion a year. But a new wave of capital is flowing home. Technology investment. Startups in fintech, health tech, and digital education attract venture funding from Singapore, Japan, and the United States. The government now markets the country not as a cheap labor site, but as a digital services hub connecting East and West. Add to that the country's rich reserves of nickel, copper, and cobalt, key to the world's clean energy transition. If managed sustainably, these resources could move the Philippines from raw exporter to value-added producer. Modernizing defense and diplomacy. The modernization of the armed forces continues, carefully, steadily. New frigates from South Korea, surveillance aircraft from Japan, and coastal radars from the U.S. give the military eyes and confidence it never had before. This isn't about provocation, it's about presence. Each radar installed and vessel deployed sends a signal. Sovereignty will be protected, but peace remains the goal. Regional partnerships keep multiplying. Joint patrols with Australia and Japan, defense training with the U.S., humanitarian exercises with ASEAN allies. Together, These moves reinforce one message: cooperation deters conflict. A changing perception. 20 years ago, global analysts mentioned the Philippines mostly when talking about migration or corruption. Today, they talk about logistics corridors, digital finance, semiconductor assembly, and defense reforms. The narrative has shifted from problem to potential. That change wasn't overnight. It's the result of persistence, decades of incremental progress. Each administration, despite differences, kept a core commitment to democracy and continuity. That stability sets the Philippines apart in a region where political disruptions often derail growth. And then there's the youth, the country's greatest asset. With a median age of just 25, the Philippines is one of the youngest nations in Asia. Digital native, globally connected, multilingual, this generation ensures that the country's future will move faster than its past. Outsmarting the giants. Put all of these layers together: geography, diplomacy, economy, and people, and a clear pattern emerges. The Philippines isn't playing catch-up anymore. It's quietly rewriting the rules. To Washington, it's an ally and access point. To Beijing, a neighbor and obstacle. To Tokyo and Seoul, a partner and market. And to ASEAN, a steady voice proving that independence doesn't mean isolation. When analysts say the world's superpowers can't ignore the Philippines, it's not sentiment, it's strategy. Trade routes, energy, migration, cybersecurity. Everything runs through its space, physically or diplomatically. The closing reflection. So when people ask, how did the Philippines outsmart the world's giants? The answer isn't about armies or aggression. It's about adaptability, about mastering balance, about turning geography into leverage and partnership into power. Because in the modern age, influence isn't earned by dominance, but by connection and trust. And on those fronts, the Philippines is quietly setting the standard. This is Philippines Uncovered, revealing the truth, the transformation, and the rise of Asia's next great nation.